are the evaluation component for the clustering. So number one is the resources that include the human and non-human resources that responsible for 30% of the total grid, and then followed by the management of research. But the most important will be output of research that responsible for the total 50% of the grid, and followed by revenue generating that represent only 5% of the total grid. So by conducting this clustering, basically we will have four different clusters, just like your credit cards. We have platinum, we have gold cluster, we have silver and bronze cluster. These are the result of our clustering of Indonesian universities based on research performances. You can see it has been almost 12 years we have conducted this clustering. In the latest clustering was in 2019. You can see here out of 3,250 universities, there are only 47 universities belonging to platinum cluster. And for gold, there are only 146 universities. And then for the silver, almost 500 universities, but the remaining are belonging to the bronze cluster. This is really challenging for us, especially how to improve the quality and the capacity of those belonging to the group of bronze cluster. What are the consequences of clustering for universities? So basically for universities that belonging to the cluster of bronze or binaan, they entitled to have only 2.5 billion Indonesian rupiah per year per university. And those coming from the silver or madhya cluster, they entitled to have 2.5 to 7.5 billion Indonesian rupiah. And then for the gold, they entitled to have 7.5 to 15 billion Indonesian rupiah, while for the platinum group or mandiri, they have opportunity to have the quota between 15 to 30 billion Indonesian rupiah. In addition, for the platinum, gold, and silver cluster, they have additional opportunity to manage what call it decentralized budget. Now, I would like to move a bit on the role of Ministry of Research and Technology, National Agency for Research and Innovation. So basically, BRIN is having a very important role for integrating research, development, assessment, and application of science and technology. That's mean we're talking about invention that will include research and development. On the other hand, we will talk also about assessment and application of the research and technology or innovation. And as you can see here within our priority program, as I indicated by the red color, research and community empowerment in higher education is one of our priority program between 2020 to 2024. Now, what are the portfolio of national research, especially under the Ministry of Research and Technology? So basically, we would like to have research and innovation that will, number one, to produce appropriate technology. That's mean low technology that can solve the problem within the community. Number two is to improve added value and downstreaming of the research product, especially if you are talking about Cere oil, for example, then we talk about the grade level of Cere oil for cosmetic. So it will have like a 15 times higher of the added value compared to the original Cere oil. Number three, we would like also to produce innovation, especially as an import substitution and to improve our local content. And last but not least is to mastery of frontier technology. Now, Within our ministry now, we have a program that we will have a paradigm shift from resource-driven economy into innovation-driven economy. So we believe that innovation is a key for economic growth. So how this will be interacted? So basically, it will be started by education input. For example, stickers Cirebon will have the responsibility to prepare a good human resources through education so that we will have accumulation of resources. Then they will be equipped with technology innovation and produce innovation, and basically will be a good thing for supporting economic growth. We try within our ministry to improve our ecosystem of research and innovation. So basically, there are four different actors to improve our ecosystem of research and innovation. Number one is knowledge producer. Number two is knowledge enablers. And number three is knowledge intermediaries. Last but not least is knowledge user. If we look at the knowledge producer, it is very important to note that university has played a very important role as part of knowledge producer. In Indonesia, as part of Tridharma or university pillars, we would like to have a synergy that research will be our core that will, number one, solve the problem within the community. The research also will have to improve our quality in teaching and learning, as well as to solve the problem in the community through the application science and technology. On the other hand, research results should also improve our participation in the national development, as I mentioned in the portfolio of Aristek Brin. We are now at the Industrial Revolution 4.0. Therefore, we have to be prepared ourselves so that we can make use the advantage of Industrial Revolution 4.0. Could be Internet of Things, cyber security, cloud computing, etc. And based on our preliminary readiness evaluation, Indonesia is considered as one of the high potential entrant for Industrial Revolution 4.0. Now I will move into second topic, policies on research and innovation.
Oke, Isa, di sini, Isa. Ngomong orang buka bengkel baca. Ini mati.
So when we talk about orientation of research innovation, basically the Ministry of Research and Technology will support all basic research and then applied research and development research. And for the funding of 2021, we will more focus on applied and development. That's been more grant will be poured into applied and development research. However, we still also continue to support our basic research. For the first time after independence of Indonesia, we have decided to have innovation research product between 2020 to 2024. We have identified 49 innovation product that will be achieved between 2020 and 2024. For example, for research focus on food, we will focus on rice, soybean, palm oil, shallot and garlic, chili, beef and chicken. And when we talk about the socio-humanity, art and education, then we will talk about the change of community within digital revolution era, enhancement of Indonesian democracy, and also enhancing the role of Indonesia within regional and global position. So it is very important for Indonesian researcher and lecturer to have in-depth knowledge about national research priority between 2020 and 2024. So basically, we will have 9 different research focus from food, energy, health, medicine, transportation, engineering, product, defense and security, maritime, socio-humanity, art, education, as well as multidisciplinary and across sector. We have already identified 5 topics for multidisciplinary and across sector. Number 1 is disaster management. Number 2, biodiversity. Number 3 is climate change. Number 4 is stunting nutrition. And number 5, environmental and waters. So the 9 research focus will be included in our online system, Simulitapmas, for accepting proposal for Indonesian lecturers. And within 49 innovation product, we have identified 12 innovation product as a super priority product. Number 1, biohydrocarbon, drone, and the last one, 12, is airplane, especially N219 amphibian. The question is whether this activity will change or modify our research scheme in 2020. No, we will keep it the same for 2021. So there is no need for you to adjust for the new scheme of research in 2021. So basically, we will support the national research agenda, and then we will talk also and providing support for decentralized category, and we will keep supporting our top-down category, especially University Excellence Research Consortium, and then evidence-based policy as well as world-class research. So this is the business process of our research proposal. So I expect that the new call for funding of 2021 will be released next month. So basically, this is the step that you have to go through. Number 1 is you have to log in through Simulitapmas, and then you have to identify your team. And for your information, since the budgets come from the education sector, so it is very important that the principal investigators come from the university under the Ministry of Education and Culture. But we will have a flexibility in terms of members of the team, that we can accept the members of the team come from the non-university within Ministry of Education and Culture, for example, from the Ministry of Religion, from the National Research Institute, from the community, from the industry, from the private company, as well as from the non-government organization. And then you have to follow the proposal format that include the abstract background and then methods, etc. And then you will have approval by your university for submitting your proposal. And once we receive your application and your proposal, I will make plotting for the reviewer to conduct the administrative selection, and followed by substance review by our national reviewer. So what's important for your consideration to make your proposal highly accepted for the funding in 2021? So basically, there are 3 points that need to be highlighted. Number 1 is track record. So it is very important for you to always upgrade and update your track record, because it will responsible for the total of 40% of the total review. And then secondly, it is very important also to highlight your proposal, the quality of your proposal, because it will responsible for the total of 60% of the review. last but not least is the budget. There is no review on the quality of a budget proposed, but it will uh, given to reviewer to estimate the appropriate budget that will be enough to you for conducting your research when your proposal will be selected. And all of this will be conducted online through Simply Tapmas. So for your information, for every single uh, proposal you submitted, it will be reviewed by at least 2 reviewers. If there is a gap between the provided by reviewer, then I will ask the third reviewer. So I want to make sure that this will be a merit-based selection. This is a nationally competitive selection. So it is very important for you to really try to produce and prepare a very high quality research proposal. And this is are the targeted research output for 2021. So in 2020, I managed to have 1.054 trillion Indonesian rupiah, and this is quite low because due to the national disaster of COVID-19. In 2020, I experienced a budget cut approximately 400 billion rupiah, almost 40% of the current budget in 2020, and it will cover 14,000 research projects. So we expect in 2021 there will be 11,300 articles in national journal as well as international reputable journal. And then we still receive 1,752 article conference. And then there will be 298 book or book chapter, 387 intellectual property rights, and then 60 industrial prototype, and then there will be about 1,657 document feasibility study as well as the result of tests within the environment as well as the test for our research product. And then we expect to have 298 of draft of the policy manuscript. So this research output will be based on 3 different research criteria. Number 1 is basic research, and then number 2 applied research, and number 3 is development research. From this slide, it can be assumed that we are not talking only about international publication, but we also could accept if you promise us to have article conference or book chapter as a promise for your output research for 2021 as well. How about our policy on research and community empowerment in the new normal era? So basically, our ministry, Professor Bambang Brojonegoro, has laid out this concept, which include number 1 is a new mindset. So it is very important for us to have new mindset that we are now in the new normal era. This is something that we cannot avoid. Number 2, it is very important for us to have new attitudes and behavior. And number 3 is we are doing in a new way of doing things. So for that reason, for the 2021 Research and Community Empowerment Program, basically for the new call, we will support research and community empowerment, but we will also release our new guideline, edisi 13. So, but be sure that we will not change any scheme, but the new edition will only include our governance supplement as well as supplement for conducting research and community empowerment in the new era. So basically, the new supplement will be part of our new guideline. In addition, we also make some changes for the eligibility criteria for those who can uh, submit proposal more than two. So normally we only targeted those who's having Scopus index of 3 for 2020. We will have at least H index of 5, but we will also allow those having 3 granted patents aside from having H index, and also for those coming from art and culture, we will have another criteria that you may have what we call it monumental art or monumental product within our art and culture. So it will give you another opportunity to submit more proposal before we only limited into those having SI index, but now those having granted patent as well as monumental art and culture product could also be able to submit more than 2 proposals. So I would like to thank for all of you for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. What an excellent presentation from our keynote speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to listen to presentation of the second speaker, Professor Dr. Salamon Sastra, MPH, MSc, MBA, SPM, BRP from Lincoln University College, Malaysia. Let me greet first Professor Salamon Sastra. Assalamualaikum, Professor.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How do you do?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Prof. Okay, now I'm pleased to introduce him. He is the best doctor in Indonesia who is very multi-talented and mastering various fields of medical science, including the eye field. He is also Deputy President, Lincoln University College, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He took doctorate program on medical science, University of Indonesia. And he created many excellent things. Some of them are ultrasonic education of midwifery in antenatal care to prevent mother death at birth, or pendidikan ultrasonik kebidanan dalam antenatal care untuk mencegah kematian ibu saat melahirkan. Besides that, he also created program for the prevention of blindness in adolescents and Hafiz Quran program with neuroscience approach. Wow, that's very great. And without further ado, please welcome Professor Dr. Salamon Sastra. Time and place are yours.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. My topic is happy brain and healthy life to prevent COVID-19. I'm very happy that the organizing committee invite me to speak, especially in this COVID-19. I am 77 years old, and I'm very lucky. In this year, I still alive to see how the COVID-19 became a global pandemic in all over the world. I was educated and trained as a population epidemiologist since 1962. Since then, I have experiences to handle epidemic, but not pandemic global. So although we are very unhappy for this global pandemic, but we use or we have to be happy also that we are a part of this world history in healthcare. Next slide, please. May I have the pleasure to congratulate the director of Cirebon Speakers and staff for this first Cirebon International Conference, as well as the chair lady of the organizing committee, and of course, to all my colleagues, the speakers for this conference, and all the attendants. My first slide is an introduction. Let's all know and stated that this global pandemic of coronavirus 19 was declared by the President Joko Widodo for the whole National Kesatuan Republik Indonesia territory. This pandemic global was stated by the WHO, but in every country has to be stated or declared by the President. Since then, the Indonesia territory is stated in a non-natural disaster. Non-natural disaster, not a natural disaster like a flood, landslide, eruption of the mountain, but a non-natural disaster. It's very special. Never happened for the last 10 years. Since then, the country situation was in a public health emergency. This also has to be focused. Public health emergency, not a clinical health emergency, like stroke, coronary disease, or others, but in a public health. So it will involve the whole citizen of every country involved in this global pandemic of the coronavirus 19. Next, please. So Indonesia set up a governing body to handle the national situation, named as Gugus Tugas Percepatan Penanganan COVID-19. It's a special task national, not only to handle, but to make it fast than normal, and chaired by the commander of Indonesia National Disaster Relief Task Force. The key person of the role will be Minister of Health. This governing body was established in the whole country. Next, please. So Indonesia set up what we call it a social distancing. This is not a very easy task because it will followed by the whole 250 million people. This consists of keep distance between people 1 or 2 meters. Good 2 meters, but less than 1 is very dangerous. Why? Because the COVID-19 transmitted from people to people straight in a distance of less than 2 meters, especially less than 1 meter. We have to wash hands with current water and using soap frequently, not other than this. Before this, educated to the people, so many people use other than current water and soap. This is wrong and it's not proper. To keep the virus not alive is wash hands with current water and using soap. And the third is using face mask, not face, face mask. When you go out of home, even you can use it at home and keep the distance because this coronavirus 19 is transmitted straight from human to human. So this social distancing is to prevent COVID-19 being transmitted between people. Next, please. What is COVID-19? Why COVID-19 is so important and take all the world attention? COVID-19 is a microorganism, a virus with corona. So many virus, so many bacteria, so many others microorganisms, but this is a special virus with corona. This virus originally lived in animal and due to some circumstances lived in human and created a disease with influenza-like sign clinically, like warm, fever, and weakness, cough, and then this coronavirus will influence the comorbid situation of people. So mostly this coronavirus is very dangerous to a group of elderly people in the whole world. This is, please take attention, this is different than the dengue. The dengue is harmful to the less than 5-year-old children, while coronavirus influence the elderly. Next, please. The WHO named this microorganism, created a new disease. Before, this coronavirus is very tame, not harmful, but then based on special circumstances, this created new disease in humans. I show you like clinically sign. The COVID-19 consists of an RNA protein covered by fat. It is different than HIV. HIV is a protein but next to the cell. But this RNA protein is a COVID-19 covered by fat. Now, the COVID-19 stay at the human upper tract mucosal to keep their stability. As we all know, virus is very easily mutation. They like to keep their stability. That's why they need a mucosal, the human upper tract, not other part of human. Not in the ear, not the intestine, not in other, but special in human upper tract mucosal. That's why the COVID-19 is transmitted directly from people to people while they are talking to each other, coughing, whooping, that not transmitted by dust. In tuberculosis, the bacteria goes to all area through the dust, and then by inhale, the dust goes to our tract of respiration, not the COVID-19. The COVID-19 transmitted directly from people to people. In dengue, the virus transmitted through mosquitoes, special mosquitoes. Malaria also from mosquitoes. But this COVID-19 is transmitted directly from people to people. That's why we stated the social distancing. It's a very special task and very new to the people. It changed all the people life daily. Next, please. The COVID-19 stay at the human upper tract mucosa to keep their stability. Please show from the nose. This the COVID goes. This the tract. You see, all the upper tract up to laryngopharynx. That's why when you cough, when you speak, especially speak loudly, the virus called COVID-19 will transmit it to other people. Next, please. The COVID-19, I show this pattern of how the COVID-19 transmitted directly from people to people, not through vehicles, straight. That's why we need to use mask all the time. And special mask, very simple mask. From us who wear mask, any kinds of material from our upper tract can be stopped by the mask, and people who we are talk with cannot be transmitted by the virus because it's already filtered by the mask. Very simple, only 5,000 rupiah. Next. So let's talk about relationships between microorganisms and human. Both human and microorganisms living together in Earth. We understand this microorganism since we have the microscope in 18th century by Anthony Leeuwenhoek. Since that, we understand the etiology of human come from microorganisms, the harmful organism, the pathologic organism. Why? Because the relation between them could be harmful or non-harmful, depend on inner on outer situation. If we take material from our mouths, we can see there are two kinds of microorganisms, a harmful and non-harmful. The pathologization created disease by the microorganism to the human. This is what happens all the time in the world. Next. So let's see. The level of pathologic condition in human are very much depend on the level of virulency of the microorganism. So there are microorganisms not so virulent. So they still attack, but there's no cause of disease in the human transmitted. In the other side, the health condition of the human is also important to fight as a defense mechanism against the microorganism who attack him or herself. Once the microorganism enter the human body, can be through respiration, can be through the skin, and goes to all directions through blood, the body starts to react as a defense mechanism and produce immunity product. This is very important to understand. These immunity products are different based on the character of the microorganism, meaning there are a specific immunity product for each microorganism. The immunity product of malaria different than from smallpox, different than cholera, different than tetanus, different than typhoid, different than others. They are specific. Most of the microorganisms will harm our body. We can produce the vaccine. Because this COVID-19 a new microorganism type, so we still start to produce the vaccine against this COVID-19. Next. So I show this in the slide. There are bacteria, fungus, parasite, etc. Next. Health condition. The most situation of human to prevent disease is not medicine. The most factors to prevent disease from outside to enter our body is health condition, our health condition. Okay, based on the criteria of Indonesia Ministry of Health, the basic consideration of a healthy person are mentally healthy, physically healthy, social healthy. Okay, all right. Based on our consideration, the expectation life of Indonesian woman is 67, while for men is 64, meaning mostly, averagely, women from Indonesia can live until 87. Indonesian men can live until 84. We have a coefficient of 20 years based on mentally health, physically health, and social health. So in mentally, you are not dementia or in anxiety kun. Physically mean your all your body is still function in a good level of qualification. And socially, you can live by yourself, not as poor people or people disabled. This is what we call it Indonesian healthy person. I'm very happy in 77 years old, I still have these three basic considerations. Alhamdulillah. Now we talk about human brain. Human brain consists of billions of cells, differentiated based on function. A student in the first year, we all studied human brain, and for the student in secondary school, we start to explain them what is the human brain. The cell of human brain has a very important role in the process of immunity products. We have a center to produce this immunity product depends on the material product produced by the microorganism to create disease in our body. The mental condition of a person is very important also in the process of immunity product. So both physically and mentally condition influence the process of the immunity product. Next. How COVID-19 and the body's immune response affect the brain? That's what I told you. First, mentally. Second, physically. That's why the topic is happy brain and healthy life. Happy brain means you are optimistic, you are happy, mentally, socially, and physically healthy. I mean. In this situation, whatever any microorganism enter your body, your condition of health can attack the microorganism enter your body. So there's no effect of this attack of the microorganism. Next slide, please. Let's see. This is what we call external condition, like cold, warm, windy. Also has an important role in the immunity process. Let's back to before. Slide, please. Let's back. Again. See, mentally conditioned means optimistic, happy, and survive. As long as you have this condition, you are ready to fight against any microorganism, and this also against the COVID-19. Next. What or not? No. Back. Action present. No. The most important thing is the food intake, because the food material product the immunity products, and it is based on the quality of food intake. Next. Based on the scientific development, we could produce medicine for all the disease created by bacteria, generally or specifically. However, it did not happen for virus. Why? Virus has its specific characters, different from bacteria. Virus could change their character very easily and very fast, depend on the situation. Therefore, the health condition, the stability of health condition, and the fast process to produce immunity product against virus is very, very, very important. We have what we call it GERMAS. GERMAS is an abbreviation of Gerakan Masyarakat Hidup Sehat, the community movement for health life. The GERMAS could create happy brain and healthy life. GERMAS is a basic task, basic for the whole general situation of health. This could be used for a special task, such against tuberculosis, malaria, dengue, and others, cholera, typhoid. So this basic GERMAS consists of hidup sehat, food intake, happy life, water, sanitation, don't smoke. That is the basic. Gerakan masyarakat hidup sehat, environmental health, and belum, enggak, balik. Yeah. This basic Ayo Hidup Sehat, Live Healthy Life by GERMAS was created years ago and sent to all people of Indonesia. This pamphlet is distributed to all Indonesian citizens. We have to follow this Ayo Hidup Sehat as a basic daily life action. Go. But in the condition against coronavirus or COVID-19, we put something more like cuci tangan pakai sabun, wash hand by current water and soap, and then distance 1 to 2 meters, and the third is wearing face mask. A simple, this is all three is prevention, but the basic daily life is GERMAS. Okay. So the basic task of GERMAS consists of balanced daily food, environment health sanitation, sport activity, sleep well and enough, no smoking, and balanced water intake. If you follow this, based on your age group, you will be healthy all the time. Happy brain and healthy life. Next. GERMAS and COVID-19 infection, then we add physically distance, hand wash with current water and use soap frequently, and use face mask properly. Next. Okay, Lucy. GERMAS with some special tasks related to COVID-19, create a happy brain and healthy living, which at the end could prevent the COVID-19. I repeat again, yeah, this question is very important because I have to explain to you based on my education, training, and experience. GERMAS, Gerakan Masyarakat Sehat, with some special tasks is for happy, healthy living. But related to COVID-19, we put 3 others. Distance, physical distance, 1 to 2 meters. Second, wearing, washing hands with current water, plus soap. And the third is wearing mask. This is to prevent. This is for your healthy condition also. Now, we have, before me, before my presentation, we have a very high level Indonesian bureaucrat in the explaining about research. I show you this. This is a research. Can you see? Ada, tapi. Nah, see, this is a kepatuhan warga menggunakan masker di Kota Cimahi. Why? Because I'm the consultant for the against COVID-19 pandemic globally in Cimahi City. So I set up a research. So in every location, we understand there are different people wearing masker or not wearing masker in a certain area and a certain time. Second, this pandemic global not only affect on daily healthy life, but also the economy. The economy is destroyed by this pandemic. So I set up this. This is a research how we react to prevent disasters to the people who have business in vegetables, because nobody can buy regularly because they don't have money. So we have to set up a task to help all the farmer for them to still stand on themselves, not giving them the fish, but giving them the kaya, the bite. This is what we have. So, as you see, I have an area of research as a medical doctor and public health, education, and also in business, as well as herbalist. Since we have a lot of money by the Ministry of Research, I invite you, all the audience, who I believe you are a researcher. You can contact me through this WhatsApp number, and I'm very happy that I have 50 topics of research based on this COVID-19 global pandemic in the whole world or in our territory of Republic Indonesia. Thank you very much for the attention. Thank you, and let's prevent the coronavirus, COVID-19. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm waiting for your.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Goodbye.
All right. Happy brain and healthy living. Thank you for Professor Salamun for sharing us such an interesting topics. It adds our view of global pandemic about COVID-19. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, are you still excited with this conference? I hope so, because we still have a great speaker. And the next speaker is Professor Dr. M.D. Mahmud Habib from Independent University, Bangladesh. Okay. Assalamualaikum, Professor Habib.
Waalaikumsalam.
How do you do?
Yeah, I'm okay. How about you?
I'm good, thank you. Okay, Prof. Habib, I'd like to introduce him first. Professor Dr. M.D. Mahmud Habib is an associate professor, at BRIC Business School or BBS and BRIC University, Bangladesh. In addition, Dr. Habib is the visiting scientist of University of Texas Arlington, USA. He is the editor-in-chief in International Journal of Supply Chain Management, London, UK, Scopus Index. He accomplished his PhD in MS with outstanding performance in computer and engineering management under the Graduate School of Business from Assumption University, Thailand. His PhD research was in the field of supply chain management. He has about 18 years experience in the field of teaching as well as in training, workshops, consultancy, and research. As a researcher, Dr. Habib published about 140 research papers, including conference proceedings, journal articles, and book chapter or books. Also, he delivers lectures as keynote speakers at more than 50 international conferences at various countries. Wow, that's great. Particularly in Taiwan, USA, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Turkey, Korea, India, UK, Italy, and etc. He received Best Track Chair Award at IEOM in 2012 conference. He's involved with QS World University Ranking and Times Higher Education Ranking as an academician. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. M.D. Mamun Habib. Time and place are yours.
Thank you so much. Can you see my slide?
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to deliver the keynote speech. I'm honored to deliver the keynote speech in such kind of conference. And during the COVID-19 time, we are very privileged that we could organize this kind of conference. And as a keynote speaker, we are delivering our lecture. Basically, today my lecture on supply chain management, but it's a link with the COVID-19 pandemic impact. So first of all, what I said that how we can notice, visualize the pandemic impact upon the global supply chain management. We'd like to start this way that, this is a very major issue. Those you're familiar with the supply chain management, that what is the impact of COVID-19? Because you know that we are familiar with the supply chain and centralized production, just-in-time manufacturing. Everything has been collapsed. And not only that, in the midst of the coronavirus disruption, one thing has become particularly clear: the way our supply chain was designed made it vulnerable to a pandemic. So earlier thinking about supply chain management and during the COVID-19 impact, now we have to revise our whole thinking about the global supply chain management for new future, especially the post-pandemic time. Before going to start the main discussion, I just started with the easy example. You see the Apple, the top 10 suppliers. More than 2 and 3 are located in Asia, especially in China. Due to the COVID-19, now the time is coming that how they are planning to shift that suppliers of the Apple should be moved from the China to other countries. So this is the best example that this is the time that after the pandemic, the whole global scenario will be changed. The official term for this kind of centralized manufacturing has basically means business all over the world had all their eggs in the one basket. Now, this is a time that we have to think that how we can revise this concept. Earlier, we were thinking that one supplier, now we are thinking one supplier is not sufficient. We have to think the multiple supplier. And I would say that supply chain has been now vulnerable as well as disrupted. And that is our discussion for today morning. Before going to start our main discussion, I just mentioned the key point about the basic supply chain. You know that when you think in the basic supply chain, first of all, you have to think about your raw materials, finished product. You have to think about the supplier, customer. You have to think about the flow of goods if it's the manufacturing industry. You have to think the flow of service if it's service industry. Flow of information, integrated information, and flow of fund. Basically, you know that this is the pandemic time. We understood the significance of the flow of information. We need the integrated information rather than our discrete information. So you can see this basic supply chain, we can apply for the manufacturing industry. We can apply for the service industry. If you look very carefully, say this is the one supply chain model for the manufacturing industry. So then you can see what I mentioned in the last slide. We need the raw materials. that will come from supply end. See, the raw material that will come from supply end. And then after the processing, we have to deliver the finished product to the customer end. So that is a very fundamental discussion. And the flow of goods from the supply end to the customer end, flow of information and flow of fund, flow of money from supply to customer end. So that is our basic supply chain for the manufacturing industry. And then manufacturer means factory, distributor means distribution channels, they're working, retailer means outlet. I think we are familiar with this one. I don't want to spend more time on this one because more or less you have an idea. So today, when we discuss about this one, you have to understand that what kind of impact is coming due to the COVID-19. This is a basic supply chain for the service industry. If you think about the service industry, then the same things that raw materials come for the supply end. After the delivery, after the processing, the finished product delivered to the customer. And you see that a service provider, basically the hospital, if it's the hospital, it is that like education institution, then education institutions. So our COVID-19 impact upon the supply chain management. So we can also visualize the impact of supply chain management, impact of the COVID-19 on supply chain management in the service industry. If you look very carefully, there is one basic difference between the manufacturing industry and service industry. When you think the service industry, that time we have to think about the consumer. You know that we are using that very critical one discussion, like profit organization, non-profit organization. Basically, the service industry is a non-profit organization. We assume that a critical point of view. So when you are serving the service industry supply chain management, your main target to contribute to the society. Your main target that how you can add the more values. Your main target betterment of the society. Say you are working in the hospital. So you never think that your main target to get the profit from the customer. Your main target, how you can add the more values to the society. So now come to the question, the consumer, that is the society. So when you design the supply chain management for the service industry, that means that we are defining that our consumer as a society. So you know that if you say our in service industry, our main target contribute to the society, better on the society. That means society is a concept of all stakeholders. So that your target how you can add values, rather than to get the profit. What I mentioned that in manufacturing industry, maybe your main target that to get the profit, but service industry you can't think this way. Today, after our remaining session, we'll also learn that how the COVID-19 impact upon the supply chain in the service industry. Basically, this is the definition that we are using, that the sequence of organization, their facilities, function, activity that are involved in producing, delivering product or service. So come to the next question, what kind of facilities, what kind of function activities are involved? If we're going to start our impact of pandemic, let us see that there is a few examples of the facilities and function activities. When you design the supply chain, if you think the supply chain, you have to think the few facilities, basic facilities like warehouse. This is called the inventory. This is storage of the product. We have to think about the factory, where the products will be produced. We have to think about the processing center. It's also part of the manufacturer. We have to think about the distribution center. Those are responsible for the distribution. We have to think the retail outlet. Those are the responsible for the selling the product, and customers will come to the outlet. And definitely all are the offices, different types of offices. What I said that supplier, manufacturer, distributor, retailer, all are the offices. Without the office, you can think how we can do the invoicing, how we can transfer the product to other subjects. And then the function activities. Basically, when you think about the function activities, we have to think the basic something. We have to think about the basic somethings like forecasting, purchasing, inventory management. You know, nowadays we are thinking about suppose when supply chain design, supply and demand to end. But we need the forecasting. But how we can do the forecasting? When that pandemic time, the COVID-19 has been started, it is around that in our Asian, this area, started around the February. When they started the February, but China, they started this on the end of the December and January. But February to onward, we assume that maybe after 1 or 2 months, it will be recovered. But you know, after the 6th month, we noticed no, it didn't recover. So that means our whole forecasting has been collapsed. decision for purchasing is also collapsed. That even you know that the suppliers, suppose most of the organizations, they're preferring the company, they're preferring to take the like raw materials from the one supplier. So if that raw material supply has been collapsed, then everything is collapsed. It happens, you know that the question of the purchasing, you know that suppose our subcontinent, we are too much dependent on the Chinese product. Even any new product, any kind of product, is it totally suppose produced by the Bangladesh or produced by the India, but at least the one of the component it depends on the China. So it means that we cannot finalize any product purchasing issue. This is the very another issue we'll discuss later on. So when you think the supply chain, everything inventory, how we can manage this inventory. I mentioned today starting point information management. You have to ensure this one information. We are talking about the integrated information. It could be like the MRP, ERP, or any kind of software based. There is a username password, so you can log in, you can see what is happening. Quality assurance, it's another question, and I think today we'll get some idea about this one. Scheduling, in fact, that due to the COVID-19, our schedule has been collapsed, and production and delivery is also collapsed. I think today I'll give you some example as well. And finally, customer service. That question is very far to think because at this moment our main target is that survive in the world rather than customer service. But this is one of the key point of the supply chain function activity. Okay, so more or less we got some idea about the basic supply chain for the manufacturing industry and service industry, their function and activities, as well as their facilities. Those are required to think of supply chain management. So let us start by this one. You see that I use the term is that COVID-19 and supply chain. The coronavirus crisis revealed the fragility of the modern supply chain. Fragility means instability. You see that now modern supply chain is collapsed. I used the term earlier, I think you noticed that supply chain disruption. Recent data shows the devastation economic impact as week on week trade in China, the United States of America, Europe, halved because of the crisis. You know, there is a different half, China, US, Europe, all are collapsed. Diversified sourcing and digitization, the process of converting information into digital format. Just now I mentioned information management. That would be the integrated information management. That would be like the MIS system. Will be the key to building the stronger, smarter supply chains and ensuring a lasting recovery. So you have to build a stronger, smarter supply chain and ensuring a lasting recovery. So that is our discussion as well, that diversify sourcing, we need the digitization, how we can come up that level. Basically, COVID-19 pandemic has hit global trade and investment at an unprecedented speed and scale. Unprecedented speed and scale. Unbelievable. At first, we assumed that this is about 1 month problem. Then we noticed that it's a local problem. Then we noticed it's a Asian problem. Then we noticed that no, this is not the Asian problem. This is not the our problem. This is our global problem. Global impact upon the investment and the trade. Multinational companies faced an initial supply shock. Multinational companies at first they assumed this is a supply shock, supply. Then they noticed no, it's a demand shock as more and more countries order people to stay at home. Look, two sides, supply and demand. Again, collapse the supply chain. Governments, businesses, individual consumers suddenly struggle to procure basic products and material were forced to confront the fragility of the modern supply chain. Even, you know, that suppose initially their plan that they like to keep some raw materials in procured as inventory, and then they have to use it. But finally, they could not do this one because how much raw material they have to keep, they have to store. The urgent need to design the smarter, stronger, and more diversified supply chains has been one of the main lessons of this crisis. You know, but if you ask me personally as a supply chain person, that what is my opinion, I would say this pandemic give us a good lesson to us how we can redesign our whole supply chain for future, so that if we face any kind of pandemic, we can struggle based on this supply chain. If you look very carefully, the history of supply chain management, officially they started their journey in the 1980s. And now the 2020, only the 40 years experience. So during these 40 years, we never faced any pandemic time. So I believe this pandemic time, as a supply chain person, we have this our responsibility, how we can create that more smarter, stronger supply chain design for future, so that we can cope up the pandemic time in future if we face this problem. But usually the pandemic will come again after 100 years. So full our next generation they'll get the benefit by the stronger and the smarter supply chain. Disruptions are gradually being felt everywhere, from ports to factories, storehouses, delivery channels, with the passing every single day during the countrywide or worldwide shutdown imposed to curb the spread of COVID-19. You can see that nowadays you can see the disruption available in transportation, warehouses, suppliers of raw materials, procurement, distribution channel everywhere. Even if you go back to the rural area, disruption is also evident in the rural farm level, where the people are not getting the fair prices of their production. So everywhere you can see this disruption. There is one good example of the supply disruption. It has been taken initial of the pandemic time around that April, May. Now the September, the situation is the worst if you compare the scenario the April and May. That time we mentioned the 4 pillars of supply chain, like planning, sourcing, and making and delivery. This is the month of April and May. The planning was good, sourcing, making, delivery was bad. But if you ask me now in September, the planning is bad, sourcing, making, delivery is the worst. Because what we predict earlier, it could not be happen. Situation still not could not improve. And so look very carefully, the demand for the sugar, lantern, edible oil, flour, gram goes up the 20-30% demand increase during the Ramadan time. I think you know that Muslim people, Ramadan, it was in April and May in this year. Demand for truck, transportation rise 20% during that time. Demand for the truck, transportation. Then our Chittagong port in Bangladesh. Chittagong port, Bangladesh, their storage capacity 49,019. But that time, our containers were the 49,468. And not only that, 11 vessels at jetties there waiting for offloading. Not only that, another 30 containers vessels at the outer anchors for berthing. Look very carefully. Even our containers now in the Chittagong port, it is more than their capacity. So what I say here, we are using this term. The activities at the Chittagong port in Bangladesh have become the standstill as the amount of import containers exceeded the port storage capacity due to the slow delivery of the goods during the pandemic time. This is an explanation of what I said already. The general manager of Citigroup, one of the 2 largest commodity conglomerate in Bangladesh, said they're facing disruption in their 3 areas. One is the port, second is the factory, production for the factory because due to the human resource, and finally the transportation. So look very carefully, port and the production factory and the transportation. And they say the ship loaded with goods are stuck at ports. They are not getting enough people to run production. And finally, they drive the trucks. They couldn't get enough human resource to carry the commodities. So that is the scenario what we discussed earlier. On the other hand, the large business conglomerates in Bangladesh, such as Magna Group of Industries, City Group, Abul Khair Group, Akis Group, Bosundara City Group, are facing the disruption in the supply chain and the shutdown. More resilience in supply chain. There are news consensus that more resilience in supply chain will be needed in the wake of the extreme uncertainty. So we should not depend on the one supplier. We should depend on the more supplier. We need the more flexibility, more resilience in the supply chain. For some, this involves building up stockpiles and buffer inventory. Look, now inventory is increasing, stockpiles, and then buffer inventories to provide more given the system, but warehousing comes at greater cost. This is what the just-in-time deliveries aim to resolve. This is what just-in-time deliveries aim to resolve. This is a very important discussion that if you're keeping the product in the inventory warehouses, just-in-time deliveries will come to there. You know that median small businesses have enough cash in reserve to keep them solvent for 27 days. Look, 27 days. If cash flow dries up, it could have a devastating impact on supply chains, lengthening recovery period dramatically. So, like if you look very carefully, the companies such as Unilever, they use the largest organization, so they can already agree to pay suppliers earlier. They can pay the earlier. But do you think is it possible for the small organization? Not possible. You know that financing at this moment is very important. Financing at this moment is very important by the government and the private. And not only that, it is very important that you have to understand this one that financial capacity we have another issue. Government, they don't have the enough opportunity to finance. Even the private sector, they also stag. And how they can survive in the next few months if this situation is going on. You know, due to the global supply chain disruption, it happens. What we notice, we're getting demand for some companies, skyrocketing demand for select companies, creating uncertainty, offering the raw materials, and impacting the ability to ship, receive the products on time due to shortage and logistic bottlenecks. That is another issue, bottlenecks. Ensuring workforce capacity to assemble and ship products. This is another issue what I mentioned. You know, COVID-19 time, like say this is the one Apple supplier like Wistron, which told the analysts during a recent earnings called that half of its capacity could be located outside China by 2021. And the company is now eyeing India, Vietnam, Mexico. India, Vietnam, Mexico. Same thing happens for the Samsung. Samsung, you know, their mother company, the mother country, the South Korea, previously diversified smartphone production to Vietnam and India. Well, maintaining the components from China because there is no other option. So they are moving to the different country. At least they like to continue their business. I have some suggestion. This is for suggestion for the short-term action. Like if you look at the short-term action decision, then you can think. You have to check the scenario. Understand the financial and operational impact across the multiple scenarios. Suppose the Walmart test, so they can do this one. Supply and demand balance, focus on balancing supply and demand and building a buffer stock as necessary. Supply financial health, evaluate the financial health of key suppliers to assess the potential impact to your supply chain. Tata, they are doing this one, they can handle this one. On the other hand, it is a mid to long-term consideration. I mentioned it for the short-term consideration. Now I'm discussing the mid to long-term consideration. We have to think the micro supply chain, build the agility and speed into your supply chain by creating the micro supply chains. You have to think the finite, decentralized, agile, mini operating models with the flexible supplier contracts and relationship with manufacturer closer to the point of purchase. Look very carefully. We have to explore buy where you make and make where you sell. I can repeat, buy where you make and make where you sell. I just give the two examples so that you can understand. Walmart and Tesco, Walmart in US and Tesco in UK, what they did during the starting of the pandemic, they noticed that customers declining, and the few customers they are coming, but they couldn't serve due to the restriction of the social distancing. And then they recruited the human resource so that they can send the product to the customer home. So they recruited the human resource for delivery purpose. It's very interesting thing is that. That is one of the learning. In future, maybe we have to go to the online order, and then the customer will submit the online order, and then as a Tesco, as a Walmart, you have to think how we can deliver the product to the customer. So now we have to think the new way that how we can design the distribution network. Supply diversified, we already discussed about this issue. Assess the opportunity to diversify the supplier base, identify the geographically diversify suppliers to onboard in the event of emergency. consideration should be given to the dual sourcing. I already mentioned few suppliers for critical components. So we should not depend on the one supplier. We should depend on the two supplier, two sourcing. And then supply chain strategies. Move away from an adversarial short-term approach toward a long-term strategy of driving value. Periodically test and revise your strategy to account for organizational growth and environmental change. Periodically test and revise your strategy to account for organizational growth and environmental change. Look the situation of the overall situation. So now this is the time we have to reshape our future. What I said that the COVID-19 has exposed the vulnerabilities of complex global supply chain built on lean manufacturing principles. You know the lean manufacturing principles, it has come from the Japanese concept. It is very important nowadays for the healthcare sector, where the scramble for protective equipment like PPE has laid bare the inherited risk of inventory, single sourcing model driven to exclusively by cost control. And what I mentioned earlier, that the impact of China's lockdown and its dominance in key areas of manufacturing have further highlighted the problem of the modern supply chains. When Chinese factories close, manufacturers struggle to pivot due to the lack of flexibility in their supply base. Unlikely consequence is that the global firms will diversify their supply chain in the future instead of relying on China. We are not talking about against the China. We are talking about how we can survive in the world. Manufacturing hubs such as the Vietnam, Mexico, India are likely to benefit from the shift. Or maybe the other country, maybe the Indonesia, they can take the privilege as well. We should visualize decentralization of manufacturing capacity with companies looking to bring the production home. This trend grew with the likes of automation and small batch production, what I said earlier, which had become too cheap that a number of countries started moving portions of their supply chain back home. Policymakers may be increasingly pressured to consider whether certain products need to be manufactured in the country or the region rather than the global platform. The transition to a new model for supply chains will be undermined by the rapid wholesale digitalization of the paperwork that accompanies global trade. So yeah, we should reduce our dependency on the paperwork rather than we have to move to the digitalization. You know that despite rapid advances in technology, the relationship between buyers and suppliers remains predominantly paper-based. So digitizing the buyer-supplier relationship is a fundamental element for building the robust supply chain. Now come to the next question is that how we can apply the technological advancement in our robust supply chain, how we can apply the technological advancement in our digitalized process, will make the identifying new suppliers far less time consuming. So let's move to the artificial intelligence. Let's move to the Internet of Things. Due to the technology advancement, supply chain could quickly switch to alternative providers when regular suppliers face disruption. You know, if you have the artificial intelligence, if you have the Internet of Things, if you have the digitalized information, maybe you can take the more decision instantly rather than if you have the invoice, hard paper-based decision. So let's move to the that decision. The current crisis is an opportunity to reset a system input, process, and output that has relied on outdated processes. So let's do great, smart, agile supply chain is the key to building a global trade and investment network that's capable of weathering the future storms to face any kind of future pandemic. We are not talking about too much about the current pandemic, how we can come to the decision, because now it's out of our hand. But let us move to create the stronger, smarter, technology-driven supply chain for the future, so that if you face any kind of pandemic in future, our next generation, they can survive properly, they can continue their business, they can continue their financial growth as well. Thank you so much. Now, if you have any question, the floor is open for you, please. Hello.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for a great presentation, Prof. Habib. Maybe we will have Q&A session after all presenter, after all the keynote speakers. finish the presentation. Okay, so do you mind to wait a little longer for the last speaker? Is it okay, Prof?
I can stay another few minutes and 5 to 10 minutes. Then I have to leave now, but I can come back again after 30 minutes.
Okay, okay. Because after this we will have one keynote speaker.
Okay, let's do finish that one, please. Take your time to finish the keynote speaker. Then you can take the question and answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
Okay, so for all the participants, if you have any question, please feel free to send your questions into the chat box, and after that, I'll bring it into the Q&A session. Thanks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we're coming to the last speaker, and the next speaker is Associate Professor Dr. Mimi Nahariah Azwani binti Muhammad from University Tun Hussein on Malaysia. Okay, Assalamualaikum, Prof. Mimi. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Sorry.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Prof, for your coming. Okay, I want to introduce her first. She is a senior lecturer or pensyarah kanan Ketua Kumpulan Focus English for Specific Purposes, Pusat Pengajian Bahasa. She took doctorate program in educational philosophy in the University of Queensland. Her areas of research interest are teaching English for specific purposes, professional identities of English language educators in technical universities, language assessment, interdisciplinary teaching, curriculum development, linguistics, sociolinguistics. And one of her publications is English language learning beyond the borders, constructing a collaborative learning between students of different regions, published in Universal Journal of Educational Research. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Associate Professor Dr. Mimi Nahariah Azwani binti Muhammad. Time is yours. You have 30 minutes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. Do I have access to share my screen?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I will. All right, thank you very much for the invitation and also for the introduction. I'm not yet associate professor, but thank you very much. It is like a dua for me, so hopefully one day I will get my associate professor. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to talk about enhancing the soft skills for IR 4.0 through interdisciplinary teaching and learning. So is everyone okay with the sound and the slides? Yes? Okay. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, everything is okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now I'm from Center for Language Studies, University Tun Hussein on Malaysia. Probably some of you may have heard of this university or may have collaborations, and also some of your friends may have come over to this university. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, the topic for today is about enhancing the soft skills for IR 4.0 through interdisciplinary teaching and learning. Now, in this 21st century, in this 21st century, technological advancement plays an important role in our daily life. In some ways, technology may make our life easier. Now we have online banking, we have online bill payments and online shopping. Who doesn't like online shopping? I think many of us like online shopping. And food deliveries. Who doesn't like food to be delivered to our homes, to our doorsteps? And we can have meetings like today. We have this conference online. I'm in Malaysia and some of you may be somewhere else, generally in Indonesia, but we still can have this conference and we can still have this meeting. Okay, so we have everything by the push of a button. Nevertheless, it may also create challenges in securing employment, especially for future workforce. In addressing these challenges, a coalition involved in education known as the Partnership for 21st Century Skills have developed the P21 framework. I think when the 21st century skills were first introduced, especially during the Education 4.0 era, we have talked about the 4 competencies, which are the critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and also communication. So all these skills or competencies are within this P21 framework. Okay, so all these competencies are crucial to be incorporated in our curriculum because all of these competencies are very important for us to survive or for future workforce to survive in the Industrial Revolution 4.0 era. Within this framework, English is listed as the core subject to be mastered, and the concept of interdisciplinary teaching and learning should be implemented. So this is proposed within this framework. In addition, future workforce needs to have global awareness to operate effectively in this 21st century. By global awareness, it means that we can work together with people from different regions, different cultural background. So the technological domination of today's world has led to an era known as the Industrial Revolution 4.0. In this era, tasks or jobs are categorized as low-skilled jobs will soon be replaced by automation, artificial intelligence, or robots. So what this means is that people who are holding low-skilled positions may lose their jobs to machines and AIs. Take fast food outlets, for example. They have machines where you can order from the machines and then just pick up your order at the counter. You have self-check-in boarding at the airport. You have self-checkout book loans at the library, and also in many shops nowadays, or in many malls or supermarkets, they have these machines or automation where you can check out or pay at the machine itself. You don't have to queue up at the counter. Okay, so many of these low-skilled jobs will be replaced by automation. All right. Now, according to World Economic Forum, about 7.1 million jobs all over the world could be lost by the end of 2020. So we are nearing the end of 2020 now. So how many low-skilled jobs have actually been lost? And these jobs will be taken over by AI or machines or automation. So most of the jobs involved will be white-collar jobs and administrative positions. In Malaysia, the number of vacancies for low-skilled jobs has decreased by 2,000. So this correlates with the earlier reports that by the end of 2020, about 7.1 million jobs will be lost all over the world. So this is an example of this decreasing in the number of low-skilled jobs. For those working in low-skilled jobs, they would need to start developing skills that cannot be replaced by robots or AIs. So what are the skills? We need to know what the skills are. According to the US Employment Bureau, jobs that are currently disappearing, so perhaps this is in the US, so the jobs that are currently disappearing are the jobs listed here on the screen. So perhaps in 5 or 10 years' time, these jobs will totally be taken over by robots, machines, and AIs. So no more bookstore jobs being offered, no more telephone operators being offered to us humans. So what are the jobs that may still be available? In 15 years' time, the new generations will find themselves in jobs that do not exist today. So we may not be able to think of what are the jobs that will be in existence in 15 years' time. Most of the jobs today may be taken over by technology. So in 15 years' time, you may find, if you are still alive, that is, we may find that there are jobs that we have not even thought about today. Okay, all right. Now, so what are the skills that we need to survive, or our future workforce need to survive in the Industrial Revolution 4.0? So among the skills are complex problem solving, people management, and coordinating with others, judgment and decision making, service orientation and negotiation. So all these skills are not replaceable by automation or by robots or AI. But then again, all these skills require effective communication. Without effective communication or collaboration, you may not be able to have good people management. You may not be able to manage people well. You may not be able to coordinate with others well. So these are the key, or these are the keys to the success or effectiveness of all these skills. And then there are also three key areas that we need to consider in developing the skills required for the future workforce to survive in the IR 4.0, say in 5 or 10 years time, because these are the key areas which are not replaceable by robots or AIs or machines. Okay, so AIs, you may find that if you are familiar with the Sophia, the Android humanoid, you may find that she may look like she's creative, but the creativity incorporated into her maybe it is designed by humans. So creative endeavors are the areas that may not be replaceable by robots or AIs. And then you need to have social interaction, jobs that require social interactions, and then jobs that require physical dexterity and mobility. So these are the key areas that humans cannot be replaced. In this competitive world, extensive collaboration among employees at workplace is highly demanded to optimally perform their duties. Collaboration not only leads to quicker completion of a task, but it also makes each employee become more responsible of the task or of the role within that team or in completing that task. But again, to make this successful, you need effective communication, and you also need global awareness, because in a workplace, you may find yourself working with people from different regions or different countries or of different cultural background. Here, communication is highlighted as the skill in high demand at workplace. And in some countries where English is a second or foreign language, or in non-English speaking countries, English is emphasized so that people can communicate with other people from other countries, because English is recognized as a global language where many countries or people from many countries, when they communicate, they use English. Unless you know a language of that particular country, say French, for example, you know French to speak with people from French. And then if you want to speak to people from German, you have to learn from Germany, you have to learn the language, the German, so that, and then if you go to Japan, and then you need to speak to those people in Japanese. So you have to learn many languages in order to communicate with different people from different regions or countries with different language background, but language English is considered as the language that can be used to communicate with all different people from different countries with different language background. Okay, so nonetheless, you need to be able to communicate well, and being able to communicate well in English alone is insufficient during this time. As I said earlier, you need to work with people from different regions, different countries, different language background, different cultural background. So you need to be able to have the intercultural communicative competence. That means you have to know how to communicate with people from different cultural background. So with all these issues, how can educators in higher learning institutions, particularly the English language educators, play their role in equipping future workforce with the required skills to face the IR 4.0 era? So in order for the English language, particularly in English language educators, for them to play their roles, an ecosystem which support interdisciplinary teaching and learning, as well as development of the intercultural communication skills in English, needs to be created. So how is this ecosystem, can this ecosystem be created? First of all, there needs to be a change of organizational structures, as well as teaching and learning approaches. And this can provide opportunities for collaboration, opportunities to enhance communication skills, can promote the concept of interdisciplinary education. And with this change, there needs to be a new concept of faculties and departments, no longer faculties for such and such field, but faculties that can accommodate the integration of disciplines, the interdisciplinary curriculum and activities and whatnot. So the emergence of the IR 4.0 has somehow raised the need to revolutionize our education system, where change of organizational structures as well as teaching and learning approaches are required, and the change of education system. Okay, so in preparing for IR 4.0, many studies have raised the need for interdisciplinary approaches. Why do we need these interdisciplinary approaches? Is because the IR 4.0 era expects future workforce to assume new cross-functional roles and skills, and to be able to develop all these skills, which can be cross-disciplined, we need to have this interdisciplinary curriculum, interdisciplinary teaching and learning and learning environment. With the need for interdisciplinary approaches to teaching and learning, as well as fostering collaboration skills, policymakers and curriculum developers need to consider developing programs and curriculum that supports the interdisciplinary teaching and learning. In addition, administration needs to consider establishing new concepts of faculties and departments that support such programs. As I said earlier, a new concept of faculty or department needs to be established so that these can accommodate this interdisciplinary education, interdisciplinary curriculum and activities. So the interdisciplinary teaching and learning can promote collaboration among students, promote communication skills, and it can also provide opportunities for students to work together with people from different cultural background or diverse cultural background. Now, in order to create this ecosystem, we need to look at the structure of the curriculum, the model of the interdisciplinary teaching and learning, and perhaps we could have partnerships among the educators involved, whether among all the disciplines in the within the university or with other universities, and even with universities from other countries or from other regions. So these can actually create the ecosystem needed to support this interdisciplinary curriculum. In English language teaching, language needs to be taught in context to make learning meaningful. Now, integrating English language teaching with content, uh, for example, engineering education is quite a challenge because it needs a lot of considerations, but it can help to enhance students' English language abilities. It can help students to enhance their communication skills, and in that sense, they have the opportunity to collaborate with each other and also learn to collaborate with people from other countries or other cultural background. So as such, English language educators would need to collaborate with the content lecturers, such as engineering or medical or IT and whatnot, right? And this can make language learning more meaningful and help students to enhance their English language abilities and communication skills. Now, in terms of interdisciplinary curriculum, one of the frameworks that is possible to be used. Now, this is one of the framework that we can refer to. There are quite a number of other framework that we can find, but this is the one that I would like to highlight further because it highlights more on communication skills, and it highlights integration between language and content. So this framework is called the 4Cs framework, which where the components include content, cognitive, communication, and cultures. Now, within this framework, language is used as the medium to express the content through social interactions. When these social interactions occur, it promotes the development of communication skills. It promotes the construction of knowledge, which is the content and the cognition. But in designing interdisciplinary curriculum, there are three key ideas or key areas that need to be considered. The first one is the intended learning outcomes. It is very important that the educators from various fields, when they want to collaborate in this interdisciplinary teaching and learning, they need to really understand the intended learning outcomes of that particular project, for example, or particular subject or course. And the teaching and learning process also need to be considered. How do you actually implement or execute this teaching and learning? And also in terms of the assessments, do you assess them separately or do you assess them together within one assessment rubrics? And then within this model, cross-disciplinary curriculum can be made possible with English language and content courses existing separately. You can have separate courses within the curriculum, but the learning outcomes are aligned. That's why you need to be clear of what the learning outcomes are. And then the teaching and learning activities also need to be aligned, and the assessments as well within that curriculum. So it is very important to consider this. So although interdisciplinary curriculum or teaching and learning is proposed, there are a lot of things that need to be considered. It needs to be designed thoroughly, looking at the learning outcomes, the teaching and learning activities, and as well as the assessment. All right. Now, aligning the learning outcomes, teaching and learning assessments between two disciplines such as English and engineering requires understanding and consensus. So this is the collaboration in part of the educators. And when implementing this, there can be opportunities for students to collaborate. I will elaborate this further. Okay, so things to consider when implementing teaching, interdisciplinary teaching and learning. First of all, the teachers or educators or lecturers need to understand the purpose or the intention of the curriculum, the purpose or intention of a particular lesson or a particular course, and aligning the learning outcomes, teaching and learning process, as well as assessment of both fields are also important, because all these will go back to whether the curriculum will be certified or accredited or not. In Malaysia, we have this Malaysian Qualification Agency. So if we are not able to show these alignments of learning outcomes and teaching learning process and assessments between the various disciplines, so we may not be able to achieve this qualification from the MQA. And also in engineering, there's also this accreditation, which is the Engineering Accreditation Council, which is different from MQA. So whether what we are trying to do here will receive accreditation by the EAC, for example. So in Malaysia, these are some of the organizations or agencies that we need to conform to in terms of the curriculum. So perhaps in Indonesia, there will be other organizations that will be doing the same thing. Now, in terms of global awareness, it means that students need to be aware of or understand the cultural differences between one group of people and another. Like in Malaysia, we have the Chinese, the Indians, the Malays, and then we have the Portuguese, Eurasians, and whatnot. So because we are in contact, then perhaps intercultural communication is not that much of a problem in that context. But when you talk about intercultural communication with people from other regions, say from Japan or from, let's say from UK or even from France, okay? So they have different cultural background. So how do you communicate with them? Now, for instance, students in France, they are not allowed to send text messages to their lecturers. But here in Malaysia, sending text messages to lecturers is a norm. It is normal, even sometimes at 11 p.m. at night. But that culture or that habit is not allowed or is not permitted in France. If you do that, you may face some consequences in terms of the law and things like that. So we need to know about these cultural differences in communicating. So this is where intercultural communicative competence comes in. So it's important that we can include that in this interdisciplinary curriculum. So how do we develop this communicative competence? First of all, perhaps we could establish some partnership with educators from other countries. So this is where networking comes in. This is where networking is important. So if you are able to establish this partnership, you can implement this collaborative teaching and learning, where both the lecturers or the teachers or the educators can come together and design a kind of a lesson or a course that they can perform together, and the students will collaborate with each other, say from Malaysia and also from France. So they can collaborate, and then they learn how to communicate. They learn how to deal with these cultural differences. They learn the things that they have not learned or they cannot learn in the classroom. So this is important when you can establish this partnership. So you can include this in the curriculum as well. So you can choose to collaborate with students or people from English-speaking countries, where you may benefit more in terms of learning how to use the language properly. Or you can also collaborate with non-English speaking countries where the students are also learning about the language. Because sometimes students have this anxiety where they feel that if they talk to a native speaker, people who are very fluent in English, they will feel they will not have that confidence to speak to them. They will have this low self-esteem and whatnot, and this will increase their anxiety level. But if if they collaborate with non-English speaking countries, students from that countries, then they will feel that they are at the same level with these students, and they will each learn from each other. Okay, so it's up to us which one we would like to choose, whether we want to collaborate with English-speaking students from English-speaking countries or students from non-English-speaking countries who are also learning English. So the key considerations here in terms of designing this interdisciplinary curriculum is, first of all, to determine which framework that we want to use. The one that I have shown you earlier by Coyle is only one of the examples of the framework that we can use to design this interdisciplinary curriculum. And also we need to determine the model for the teaching and learning. That means whether we want to have separate courses but leading towards the same learning outcomes, or we want to have one course where educators from two different disciplines come together and incorporate or integrate the content of their disciplines within that course. So the second one is a bit more complicated because you really need to design the course which will comply with the accreditation agencies and at the same time benefit the students. All right. Or you can have two separate courses, for example, an English and engineering course, where this engineering course will have a project that they need to, that students need to complete at the end of the semester, and they need to present the projects and whatnot. So another course, which is English, will help in producing the report and will help in terms of the preparation for the presentations, what needs to be done in terms of presentations and so on. So, and at the end, they will meet up. The students will submit the report, and then both the lecturers will look into the reports. One will look into the content of the report and the other will look into the language part, and will assess the report according to their rubrics. And also in terms of the presentation, the students will present, and the lecturers from both disciplines will sit together, and again the content lecturers will evaluate in terms of the content of the presentation, and the English lecturers will evaluate in terms of the language and the presentation wise. Okay, so but all of these require understanding of the roles of each of the educators. So the engineering educators or lecturers need to understand their role, and the English language educators or lecturers will need to understand their role, what they need to do. Then only this can be successful. And at the end of the and the most important part is that they need to determine the learning outcomes, so that whatever they do at the end of the lesson or at the end of the task, they have the same learning outcomes. So this collaboration and interdisciplinary teaching and learning can become successful. And this can also be conducted with students from other countries. Like, for example, the example I gave earlier, because I have experience collaborating with students and a lecturer. My partner is in France. So we had this collaboration in terms of teaching and learning with the students. Students benefit from this collaboration, okay? So the most important part is the stakeholders such as the administration, policymakers, curriculum developers, and educators need to work together with the industry to create this ecosystem. The ecosystem itself is very important to make this interdisciplinary curriculum, teaching and learning successful. So I think with that, thank you very much for listening. So I think I'll pass it over now to the organizer.
Okay, thank you for Professor Dr. Mimi Naharia Azwani for the great presentation. And thank you for all the keynote speakers who have delivered such an interesting and important topics. And now we come to the question and answer session. And I have had many questions in this time from YouTube comment and from the chat box. But I'm sorry, I apologize that Professor Oki cannot finish this program because he had a meeting. So I will postpone the question for Professor Oki. And now, I have had a question, some questions, okay. Maybe this is for Professor Dr. Salamun Sastra. And the first question is from Diki Nuriadin Zain from Stickers BTH. The question is, I once read an article that stated that if you want your brain to be healthy and avoid senility, at least one day we work on a math problem. So what is your opinion? Okay. Prof. Salamun?
Repeat again.
The question for you.
It's not so clear. Can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, okay. I once read an article that stated that if you want your brain to be healthy and avoid senility, maybe it means kapikunan, to avoid senility, at least one day we work on a math problem. So what is your opinion?
Right. Brain consists of billions of cells starting from the embryology, from embryo. When the human still as an embryo. So the influence of outer and inner to the brain will create a happy or not happy brain. That's why it's important to constructive influence to the brain, which will create good cells, yeah, for the human, for these people who have once again, yeah, the brain cells is developed all the time from the beginning of the conception until die. So it is very important that up to 40 years old or 35 years old, the cell brain, the cell brain, cell brain development is in a good manners. This influenced by inner and outer. This is my answer for this question. Thank you. I hope.
Okay, thank you for Prof. Solomon.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And thank you for the questions. The next question is from Setia Nurha. Okay. The next question is from Setia Nurha. This is from YouTube comment. In this pandemic era, many people face various stress, and of course, it will give impact for the immunity. So based on the condition, how to increase our mental, social, and physical health? This question is still for Professor Salamun.
So you're asking me?
Yes, this is
Professor Solomon, right? Yeah,
Professor
Professor
Salamun.
Yeah.
Again, the communication is not so clear. Please, once again, it's most better if the question is written. Can you make it written?
The question is how to increase our mental, social, and physical health. That is the question.
How do we increase mental situation?
Yeah.
Mental and physical, well, that's all right. So humans are developed. In mentally, it is since it's born. But physically, starts from the embryology, when ovum and sperma make a conception. It's developed the physically. So it's important the food intake and the condition of the mother. So after this, when we born, then come the development of mental. Yeah, we make it in different period. 0 before 1 year, 1 year to 5 years, 6 years to 12 years, 13 years to 18, and then up to, for the ladies is 35, for the men is 40. This is for the generation of the cell. So the generation of the cell, starting from 35 for the woman and starting for the men at 40. Mentally, it depends on the outer and inner. As I explained, the brain is consists of billion of cells with their own function. So between mentally and physically, that's going together. That's why food intake is the most important, like amino acid, vitamin C, mineral, whatever. And mentally, it depends on the education. So education is the most important for mental health. That is my answer. Have to be balanced. That's why we have we make steps in education. Before one, and we have now in Indonesia we have PAUD, pendidikan anak usia dini, education for the very younger, yeah, before 3 years old. From 3 to 5 we have kindergarten, and then step to elementary school, and step to secondary school, and high school, and then university. This is what we call it a basic step to build healthy, mental and physically all together. I hope that you understand it. Like this third conference, this conference is to set up your mentally. Yeah, or your millennium. For the next 27 generation of my brain. Well, I'm very happy. I'm invited so I can reproduce my brain, cell brain, to keep alive and making this presentation. Thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you, Prof, for the clear answer. And I have still last question for you. This is the question from YouTube chat, YouTube comments, I mean. The question is, how do we know if someone got happy hypoxia? How do we know if someone got happy hypoxia?
For whom this question?
Malam. Okay, this is the question is still for you, Prof. And the question is, how do we know if someone got happy hypoxia?
Oh yeah, this is different than the topic. Yeah? Okay, all right. Yeah? This is based on the physiology. Okay, people or human need oxygen for their metabolism. Okay, based on this COVID-19 attack, because the COVID-19 will influence the respiratory system. All right. Based on the physiology, people need what we call it saturation of oxygen in their brain. Yeah. So some people, yeah, they don't realize their oxygen saturation is lower than have to be. At least have to be 92%. 92%, then we can happily or normally alive and interaction to each other. So in this case, the saturation is lower. We should recognize by the people. Like if the attack comes to me, I'm like this, you see, happy, yeah, active, but I'm not realize that oxygen saturation in my brain is going low. That is what we call it happy hypoxia. Hypoxia means less oxygen level in our brain. So in suddenly, pop, I will collapse because my oxygen saturation is very low and the metabolism is going down, and I cannot and my that means my what we call it the physiology metabolism in my brain who make me alive going down, then I'm suddenly collapse. This is what we call it happy
hypoxia. Okay, thank you, Professor, for the answer, and thank you for the participants who asked the questions. And now I have a question for Professor Dr. M.D. Mahmud Habib. Okay, I have two questions. The first question is from Diki Nuriadin Zain from Sitikus BTH. And the question is, what do you think about the Japanese 5.0 industrial revolution?
Good question. You know that now still we are doing the research on Industrial Revolution 4.0, and all over the world we are working on that. And in order to come to Industrial Revolution 4.0, we need the technology, we need the supply chain, we need the finance. And our main target is how we can apply this in the industry. But when you come to the like the Industrial Revolution 4. Not 4.0, 5.0, it means that you have to need a more concentration on people working alongside robots, smart machines. You see what I said there? Today, when I deliver the lecture, I mentioned clearly. Now this is the time we have to think how we can move to the automation, how we can move to the digitalization. Basically, this is all are the relevant to the 4.0 to 5.0. So what we mentioned here, in order to come to the 5.0, we have to confirm that our people, they are working with the robots, they are capable to work with the smart machines. You know that what we mention all the time is about robots helping human work better and faster by leveraging advanced technology like the Internet of Things, IoT, big data. It adds a personal human touch to the Industry 4.0 pillars of automation efficiency. So first of all, you have to come to the Industry 5.0, then we have 5.0, 4.0, then we have to move to the Industry 5.0. Japanese, they are very smart. They're already advanced in that area, so they can think. But I hope that our remaining world, we have to move at first automation and how we can apply the technology advancement in the IoT and others. And then maybe we can think later on about the Industrial Revolution 5.0, which is using now at this moment in Japan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Habib. And the next question is still for you, Prof. Habib. This is from Mr. Muhammad Sadli from Stikas Cirebon. Okay. Many countries have problems with supply chains that causes many products damage. Are there opportunities for small and medium enterprises to start a new business where it can meet the local needs? And how?
Good question. Good question. I highly appreciate. I noticed that this is in the Indonesian language, and I already translated. I noticed this one. Thank you so much for the question, asking this vital question. Yeah, this pandemic, this COVID-19, give another opportunity for us to think as local community. Your supply will be the local community. Your manufacturing, distribution, it's also based on the local community. Not only that, I would say that you can also divide it this way, not in the whole Indonesia. You're working in the Bali, so let's think about the Bali community. You are working in the Jakarta, you have to think the Jakarta community. It means your suppliers, your distribution, your retailer, your customer, Jakarta based. Your customer is the Bali based. Your customer is at suppose the other state. So what I said that it means that very local community based. So that means we are not thinking of the global plan phenomena. We are not thinking of the whole country. We are thinking the different states. What is the advantage is that you notice that during the COVID-19 that you say one state's condition is worse, another state condition is better, but we cannot transfer the raw materials from the good state to the worst situation, the test state. So then it's a hampering. But if we do this one in the local base, community base, I think especially for the SME, they can take this initiative. Any kind of challenge, any kind of limitation create the opportunity. And COVID-19 is creating that opportunity for us. Let us think about the community-based, local-based, how we can absorb the raw materials, how can we initiate the warehouses, inventory, distribution channel, and our everything will be based on the local platform. And we have to taking care of the local community needs. We have to think of the local community demand. Based on that, we have to make the plan for the supply as well as for the production. I think this is a chance for us. Let us think in this way. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Professor Habib, and thank you for the participant who asked the question. Okay, that's all the question for Professor Habib. And now we are coming to the question for Dr. Mimi.
So if you allow me, can I leave now?
Excuse me?
If you allow me, can I leave now?
Oh, yes, sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, now I have four questions for Dr. Mimi Naharia Azwani. The first question is from Diki Nuryadin Zain, itself from Stikas BTH. The question is, what do you think about the Japanese 5.0 industrial revolution? Has Malaysia also implemented this?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think the Japanese are very fast in terms of technology. So we are still embracing 4.0 and they are already into 5.0. At the moment, we are still into, you know, at McDonald's, for example, I think it's perhaps one of the contributors is because of this COVID-19. The fast food like McDonald's, they are starting to have these machines, automated machines for you to order food and whatnot. So I think in Malaysia, we are still embracing 4.0, but perhaps in a few years' time, we will move on to 5.0. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The second question is from Rahayu Setiawati. And the question is, what plan or implementation that can apply in curriculum health college for prepare 5.0 industrial revolution?
Okay, so but as I mentioned earlier, basically what you need to understand is about what is it, what is the purpose of this integration, or is this interdisciplinary curriculum, and the learning outcomes that you want to achieve at the end of the curriculum or at the end of this subject or a course. So you need to have that clear. Then only you can actually design or integrate. And it also depends on what is it that you want to integrate. Health, is it health curriculum? Health curriculum with, right? So what do you want to integrate it with? Is it with English, or is it with engineering or technology based disciplines? So again, the educators need to sit together and come to a consensus on what is it that you would like to achieve. What do you want the students to learn? What are the skills that you want them to develop or enhance and things like that. So to tell you specifically how it is done, it's quite almost impossible, because each discipline will have its own learning outcome, its own target, its own purpose. So you have to sit down together. All these educators involved in this integration need to sit together and come to a consensus. Only then you can actually design this interdisciplinary curriculum.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mimi. And the next question is from Agung Nugraha. Okay. Based on your experience, what basic competencies do educators need to facilitate learning activities with culturally diverse students?
Okay, now this is very important. You first need to understand your own culture. All right, you need to understand your own culture, because sometimes we take for granted our own culture. For example, when I did this collaboration with France, I asked the students to interact with the students from France, and they started to exchange things about their culture. And at the end, when they gave the reflection, they said that I didn't realize that I did not know that much about my culture. And in fact, it's actually the French students who highlighted some of the things about the Malaysian culture. So I think the basic thing is for you to understand your own culture. Then you understand the cultures of other cultural background, and then you can see the differences and how do you actually compromise or negotiate all these differences. So I think this is the basic thing that you need to learn first. Learn to understand your culture, learn to understand other cultures, look at the differences and come to a consensus, or how do you compromise all these differences. Then only you will proceed to the next stage. Then this is what intercultural communication competence is about, right?
And I have the last question. Yeah. Okay. I still have the last question for Dr. Mimi. This is from Petrus Shakibi. She said that I see that in Indonesia, long distance lecturers. Sorry. I see that in Indonesia, long distance lectures still encounter many obstacles because many human resources, especially lecturers and teachers, still do not understand the technology to run it. What about the condition in Malaysia? Please provide input for condition in Indonesia.
Okay, I think this is quite similar in Malaysia because it's quite a drastic jump from face-to-face teaching and learning to online teaching here in Malaysia. So the use of technology before COVID-19, some of the lecturers or teachers in schools even, they're not so competent in using all those technology. But now during COVID-19, everybody had to instantly learn about it. And we also have the issues on the internet connection, particularly in the remote area. So I think it's basically similar to Indonesia.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Dr. Mimi. Okay, all questions have been answered by all speakers. So thank you for the keynote speakers and participants who have participated actively in this conference. And now, in this best moment, we would like to capture in order to be more memorable, of course. So we will have photo session with all the keynote speakers, the committee, and all the participants. So I invite you to turn on your camera and give your best smile in this moment. And now I will give this session to Mr. Budi Hendrawan as an operator here to take over this and give us an instruction. So please, from now, open your video camera. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Budi, this is your turn now. Hello, Mr. Budi. An instruction. Hello, Mr. Budi.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, done. Thank you, Mr. Budi. Thank you for all the keynote speakers. Thank you for all the participants. Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you a traditional dance, Mojang Priangan. Please welcome a great performance of Stikas Cirebon students. This is Mojang Priangan.
Diroksukan kebaya Nungihan cahayana Dosen sederhana Mojang priana Angkat naga Ngagosi sudah sering nyari lara keliri kepan bojang Dirak suka kebaya Naihan cahayana Dan pesan sederhana Bojang priana
Ladies and gentlemen, we have had a very productive and inspiring time together, and this event about to come to the very end. I hope you found the presentation on this conference are informative and helpful. I would like to thank you to all the keynote speakers who have been delivered the interesting and inspiring topic. I'm sure it must be have the beneficial for us as educator and researcher. Thank you for the hosts who have been supporting this event. Thank you for all the committee of the first Cirebon International Conference 2020. Thank you for all the participants for taking time out and being here today. Thank you for your attention. Please accept our apologies if there are some inconveniences. Thank you for participating in today's conference. We hope to see you again next time in the next event. Matur kasuhun, mungkin kepanggih malih teng acara selajengnya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Salam sono ka ajeuna nuka empen unggal wengi ngan ukur salira anjeun ngemutan asih nu wening tur hemat